the Loyola Chicago Ramblers men's basketball team getting hit with the death penalty, there is sort of a replacement in Chicago. The Chicago Tech Crocodiles. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode where we run down the branding, the team, the staff, pretty much everything that you need to know for this Chicago Tech team for this season. So there's the logo. It's actually an alligator, but the Chicago Tech Crocodiles sounds a lot cooler, so there you go. The stadium is going to be named the Swamp. Garrett suggested it should be called the Crock Pot, so if you guys want to have that as the nickname, then that works. And then the jerseys, you're going to love them or you're going to hate them pretty much. I think they're very cool. The main colors are green and black, so here are the home jerseys. The road jerseys are basically the same, but just the colors are flip-flopped. The home jersey says Tech, the road jersey says Tech, the home jersey says Crocs, and the alternate says Crocodiles. However, there will be other alternates worn throughout the season, but these will be the main jerseys that the Crocs do wear. So, your main assistant coach is going to be Walton Banks. He's a high school coach, and he has coached some of these players before, so he does know a little bit about these guys. The head coach has not coached anybody on this team before. His name is John Chandler, only 30 years old, so he's very young. Both of these coaches are better when it comes to coaching offense than defense, and most of the players on this team are better at offense, so I expect a lot of these Chicago Tech games to be high scoring. So where are the former Ramblers now? Well, Rashad Pickney, he's actually coming to Chicago Tech, the only Rambler to do so. Cameron Krutwig's going to Michigan, Ahir Ugubak to Illinois, and then Christian Negron, Will Alcack, Lucas Williamson, and Franklin Agunane are all headed to Missouri Valley schools. So let's start with Rashad Pickney. He's going to be the star of this team. He's the only one who's played some form of college basketball, and he's the only person whose minutes are actually safe. You know what you're going to get with him? Lots of scoring, lots of athleticism. He's going to be the facilitator, and he's going to be a very good player. Next up, a forward from the Middle East. He's only moved to America when he was 15. That's when he started playing basketball, but he's very athletic. Mahmoud Abdul Wahad. Very athletic, not a great shooter, solid on defense, better than most of these players on defense. You'll see a common theme of these players' weaknesses being on defense. Next up, this kid is likely going to be a redshirt candidate. Still raw, but he has a really solid jump shot. His name is Eddie Fernando. 6'5", 210 pounds. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same size that Abdul Wahad was, if I'm not mistaken. Fernando dropped 74 points in his final high school game. I believe at least 50 of those points were from three. He didn't make 53s, but 50 of those points were from three. Now a junior forward, you'll know this name, Quantavious October. Played football for Rhode Island as a linebacker at 6'8". He has legit NFL potential, I think, but he's coming to Chicago Tech to play basketball. He's a good mid-range shooter, good rebounder, solid when it comes to shooting threes, but not great on defense and isn't really athletic. And another junior forward who's not great on defense and isn't super athletic is the Italy native Marcus Vincenzo. Very good scorer. He can put the ball in the basket on all three levels of the court, inside, mid-range, and from three. And he's definitely one of the best shooters on the Chicago Tech team. Now a sophomore guard, very athletic, but he's still extremely raw in his craft. Likely another redshirt candidate. His name is Titus Lee. So whenever he shoots a three, we can say Lee for three, but he's not a great shooter yet, but I do think he's the potential to do so. However, I think it's better for his development that he is redshirted because he does still have a lot of work that needs to be done, and he could have gone to Duke just based on athleticism and had a chance to be a walk-on, but he chose Chicago Tech. Now, did you see that dunk from this young man? A freshman by the name of Nate Brown. He is very athletic like Titus Lee, but is a better scorer, and because of that, I do think Brown will get significant minutes off the bench. 6'7", 230, so he's one of the few players on this team who's bigger than the average player at that position. And then another big boy, 7'1", the only player on this team is at least 7 foot. He's still very raw, and I expect him to get redshirted. His name is Calvin Yatseg. Good rebounder, sort of a poor man's DeAndre Jordan. Just Jordan's better on defense and more athletic. But Yatseg, he's going to get you boards. That's about it right now, but he's only a freshman, and he does have time to develop. He was 7 foot as a high school freshman, but hasn't really grown too much since. Now, we have a freshman guard who, other than three-point shooting, is a very good all-around offensive player. Dave Dawson, 6 foot, 165 pounds. He is tiny, but he is phenomenal from mid-range, very good playmaker, but needs to work on his three-point shooting. And he also plays for Chicago Tech's baseball team as a shortstop, so he has good IQ in both sports, good awareness, and I think he could be a solid player. Now, the only senior on this team, and probably the most well-rounded player other than Rashad Pickney, his name is Zachary Seals. He has been enrolled with the Chicago Tech University for the past 3 years. Nobody else on this team was enrolled in the school last year, let alone for the past 3 years. Seals is a good shooter and can actually play defense, but isn't a great rebounder. But that's not a big deal because this guy is going to be grabbing a ton of boards, and he's also good on defense. A sophomore center by the name of Ronald Clemens. Definitely expect this guy to start, as Clemens is not a great scorer. I do think he has shooting potential, but at least this year he's sort of going to have a role that Cameron Crutwick did last year with Loyola Chicago. But as he gets older, I do expect him to become better on the offensive side of the ball. And when he was a freshman, he stopped DeAndre Ayton to 8 points. Ayton was a junior at the time, but Ayton's team did win because his high school teammate that year was Marvin Bagley. Bagley was only a sophomore, and he dropped 45 in that game. Of course, Bagley ended up reclassifying, and they were the top 2 picks in the 2018 draft class. But that's besides the point. We have Ming Xiaoping. Good rebounder, but he's still raw. Likely going to get redshirted, I'd assume, just a sophomore. 6'8" from China. Next up, we have a freshman guard, probably one of the best shooters on this entire team, and maybe the best pure offensive player other than Rashad Pickney, Jake Jackson. He's related to Westlake linebacker Owen Jackson, and he's very good on offense, but he's not good on defense one bit, and he definitely needs to improve there. Now, another ultra athlete, a freshman by the name of Elijah Seals. Elijah Seals. No, I was thinking of Zachary Seals. His name is Elijah Smith, as Smith can absolutely throw it down. 6'6", 210 pounds. He is a phenomenal athlete. Needs to work on his shooting, but he's solid from mid-range, just not really from 3. And he does need to work on defense. And then his high school teammate, the son of Walton Banks. This is Walton Banks II. Wouldn't be surprised if Coach Banks was a little bit generous when it comes to Walton Banks II and even Elijah Smith's minutes, as both of them have been best friends for years. They played high school ball together. They're playing college ball together. So Coach Walton Banks knows those two very well. The opening game starting lineup will be Rashad Pickney, Elijah Smith, Zachary Seals, Marcus Vincenzo, and Ronald Clemens. Obviously, these minutes will change throughout this season. None of these guys outside of Pickney have really played, so none of this is final. But this is just what it's going to be for the first game or so. So looking at the Crocs schedule, at Boise State to start things off, then the home opener will be against St. Bonaventure, at South Dakota State, at LSU. That's going to be really tough. Versus DePaul, at Kentucky. Expect a blowout there. Remember, Khalil Whitney, a Kentucky commit, was involved in the Loyola Chicago recruiting scandal. So I guess that's interesting. At Coastal Carolina, at IUPUI, versus Wofford, versus Providence, at Navy, versus CSU Fullerton, at Missouri, at Florida State. That's going to be a challenge. Versus St. Joe's, at UMKC, taking on the Roos, versus Grambling State, at Oregon State, versus UConn, and at Maryland. So definitely not an easy schedule by any means. They have some very tough teams on that schedule, and then even the easier, lesser-known teams will still be a challenge for Chicago Tech. I think this Crocodile team could surprise some people. I think they have more talent than people will necessarily expect, and I could see, realistically, a 6-win season here. Might be generous, but I think this team has the talent to do it.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Laughing plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Imagination.